We've been ripped off by every country in the world, friend and foe. And I can do it the easy way or the hard way. The hard way to do it is exactly what I'm doing. I think this country is going to boom. And remember, Trump is always right.
Every day, the Trump administration stuns the world with a new trade fight, a new confrontation. It's classic shock and awe. But here's the thing. It is shocking the US system too. It is raising fears of a recession in America. A survey came out this month. It puts the chance of a recession at 36%. 2 months back, it was at 23%. So the risk has increased considerably. And this is not the only such assessment. Major banks have expressed concern, like Deutsche Bank. It says there is a 43% chance of recession in the next 12 months. 43% chance, Deutsche Bank. JP Morgan puts the odds at 40% if Trump imposes all the tariffs. And some experts are going even further. They say the possibility of a recession is as high as 60%, 60. Of course, Trump is playing down all of this. He says there will be no recession in the US. In fact, the president has become more vocal, more assertive about his denials. Last month, he gave an interview. He was asked if tariffs will trigger a recession in America. He did not rule it out. He tried to sidestep the question. He said the US is going through a quote-unquote transition. Now, this was a vague and evasive response, and it caused a stock market crash. US stocks plunged by over $1 trillion in just one day because of that remark. And after that, Trump's messaging changed.
Your comments the other day not ruling out a potential recession seemed to rattle the stock markets. The Commerce Secretary said there wouldn't be one.
Boom. Just so you know.
Just specifically on the recession.
Yeah.
Do you think there will be a recession?
I don't see it at all. I think this country is going to boom.
Well, what's a recession? The presidency is a boom. And he remains bullish on tariffs. He insists that they will boost the economy and make Americans rich. Even though the economic data tells a different story, inflation is set to rise. The US Federal Reserve has raised its forecast. This is America's central bank. It's also called the Fed. It expects inflation to hit 2.8% this year. The earlier estimate was 2.5%. Now, for an economy of America's size, this shift from 2.5 to 2.8 is quite significant.
You may have seen that goods inflation moved up pretty significantly in the first 2 months of the year. Trying to track that back to actual tariff increases, given what was tariffed and what was not, very, very challenging.
Growth projections have also taken a hit. The Fed expects the US economy to grow at just 1.7%. If you ignore the pandemic years, this would be America's weakest performance since the year 2011. And that's not a good headline to have. Plus, business confidence is slipping. Recently, America's top CFOs took part in a survey. CFOs, as you would know, are chief financial officers. 60% of them are expecting a recession this year. Another 15% believe it could happen next year. So a majority of CFOs feel that a recession is coming. That is the broad sentiment in the United States. What about the rest of the world? A recession in America will have far-reaching consequences. It would send ripples across the global economy. So the obvious next question is, how is India poised? Can India handle the shock of an American recession? Broadly speaking, it can. India is not completely insulated from the risks, of course, but it is among the least vulnerable in Asia. Let me show you some data. How much does the Indian economy depend on the US for exports? Just a little over 2%. Compare that to some other countries in the region, like Vietnam. 25% of Vietnam's exports go to the US, so the risk for Vietnam is quite high. A recession in America could mean less business for exporters in Vietnam. Same with Taiwan, Thailand, and Malaysia. They're all more vulnerable. More than 10% of their exports go to the United States, so even the possibility of a recession is bad news for them. Comparatively, India is better off. And what about the Indian stock markets? If the US slows down, Indian markets will gain. That is the assessment of Bernstein. This is a wealth management company. It argues that the Indian economy is driven more by domestic factors. It does not depend on the behavior of US consumers. So largely, Indian stocks may rise. Some sectors may be hurt, like IT services and pharmaceuticals, because these are among India's biggest exports to the United States. But on the upside, they're working on a trade deal, India and the US, on a free trade pact that could insulate exports from Trump's erratic economic policies. Because remember, a trade war cuts both ways, and as of today, it is hurting Trump's America more.
Greeting you with aloha and namaste.
I love India.
Presence, occupation of a territory by another country pertains to India, what we saw in Kashmir.
How do you see Trump's America?
Yes, the current administration behaves differently from the previous administration.
Are you saying that there are foreign powers who are trying to bring down the current government in Syria?
Exactly.
Iran, maybe Russia too.
Prime Minister Modi committed to South-South, cooperation.
Not over 50%.
Is Ukraine prepared to pay the price for that peace?
No compromises at the cost of territorial integrity and sovereignty.